Minecraft is a sandbox, so by definition, you can do whatever you want with it. I took things a bit further and turned it into a tool for creating narrative games. What you're seeing here are examples of what's possible with the NarrativeCraft mod. Today, I'm going to teach you how to create a story with this mod, covering everything in a single video. First things first, what is NarrativeCraft? I think quite a few people struggle to grasp the mod's real philosophy. NarrativeCraft turns Minecraft into a tool for creating narrative games, like Life is Strange or Until Then. Simple gameplay, often a lot of dialogue, and an immersive story. And yes, the mod draws heavily on Until Then for its dialogue style. Now that's out of the way, let's move on to making our little story. I'm going to use this castle made by LemonFox. The link will be in the description. First, I need to explain how a story works in NarrativeCraft. The mod is modeled on narrative games. A story contains chapters, which are themselves divided into scenes, each corresponding to one environment. Press the N key to open the story management menu. There you can see your chapters and the scenes they contain. Click the little plus button to add a chapter. Here you can give it a name and a description, which works as a kind of note. We'll call it Castle. Once the chapter is added, click on it to access its scenes. Since it's empty, we'll create one, called Path. Then we create a second scene inside. Now let's create our two characters. Click the icon in the top left to open their list. The first will be our main character, Mark. You can set his entity type, his skin model, and whether he's the main character in this section. If so, you can choose how his skin is displayed, from a file, using the player's own skin, or giving the player the character's skin. In our case, we'll go with the third option. If you want the main character to be the person playing, give them the name User. They'll then be treated as the story's player rather than a predefined character. Then we do the same for the second character, whom we'll call Kathy. To apply the skins, click the folder at the top, place each character's skin in their folder, then rename it skin.png. We can move on to making the first scene. To start, let's set a session so we can work on the right scene using the command /nc session set 1 path. 1 is the chapter number, and path is the name of our scene. The scene will simply consist of our two characters walking across the bridge, then stopping in front of the castle to talk. To do that, we'll first record ourselves. I stand on the bridge, then type /nc record start or press V to begin recording. Once I'm done, I use /nc record stop or press B. If you're happy with the recording, use /nc record save and give it whatever name you like. Now we'd like to walk at the same time as our character so everything stays in sync. That's where the subscene comes in. A subscene is an entry that groups several animations together to play them at the same time. Open the scene menu, go to subscene and create one called Walking. Then assign our first animation to it by clicking the gear and dragging it into the assigned window. All that's left is to use /nc record start with Walking. The animation plays while we record. Once the second animation is finished, save it and assign it to the same subscene. Be careful to assign the animation to the character Kathy. In the scene's animation list, click the gear, then select Kathy. By default, all new animations are assigned to the first character created. Our subscene works properly, but it's still pretty flat. A cutscene showing the two characters walking would be better. So let's move on to the cutscene part. Go back to Story Management and click Cutscenes. Click the plus, then create a cutscene also called Walking. Assign our subscene to it using the gear. Once saved, click Walking to access the cutscene editor. Open the chat to access the timeline. You can quit, save, add a layer, then add a keyframe in that layer, and finally delete that layer. Click a keyframe to display its menu. Move a keyframe with the mouse. Press Ctrl+C, then Ctrl+V to copy and paste it. Shift+click to select multiple keyframes, and delete to remove them. Ctrl+Z undoes an action, and Ctrl+Y redos what Ctrl+Z undid. Make sure the mouse isn't in focus, then press H to hide the HUD. Now let's make our cutscene. Add a camera layer, position yourself at your first position, go to the second one and add a new keyframe. To change the easing, click the second keyframe and pick the one you want from the available options. To create a transition, add a new layer and place the keyframes starting from the last keyframe of the first layer, then do the same thing again. You should end up with this. The cutscene is done. All that's left is to quit and save. But now we need to make our characters talk, so let's move on to camera angles. In the scene menu, click Camera Angles. Create one called At Door, then click its name to access the editor. Here, I'm going to take a bit more time to explain how camera angles work. When an animation, a subscene, or a cutscene ends in a story, the characters aren't removed. The assumption is that they may be useful later, either to replay an animation with the same character or simply to talk. So there are two buttons. One adds a character or an NPC, we'll come back to that later, and the other adds a template. A character added with the first button will appear when the camera angle is invoked. A template taken from an animation, a subscene, or a cutscene will make the characters appear at the end of their animation in the editor, but not in the story. It's only there as a reference to properly calibrate the cameras during dialogue. Add the template from the cutscene we just created so we have subjects to calibrate our cameras on. Then add a camera with the camera icon and give it a name. I want to frame both characters, so I'll call it Both. To enter the camera, open the burger menu and click Preview. You'll be able to change its position, its FOV, and its rotation. Now, we need to talk about how dialogue appears. Press G or the dialogue icon in the top right. In NarrativeCraft, dialogue uses three types of data. First, the global data, which applies to every character. Then the data specific to each character. And finally, the camera angle data. The last one lets you set a custom offset and scale so the dialogue fits nicely within the frame. Adjust the values so the dialogue stays clearly visible. If you want to add a character using this button and you want to assign items to them, wear the items you want the character to have, then add them. If you want to change the character's position, just right-click on them to open a menu. Now, quit and save. The first scene is done. Let's move on to the second one. It will take place outside the castle. We'll hand control over to the player, who will be able to talk to an NPC, and the story will end when they enter the castle. Switch sessions with /NC session set 1 inside. Let's start by creating the NPC. Open the scene menu, click NPC, and create one called Villager. An NPC works like a global character, with one big difference. A global character like Mark is available in every scene of the story, whereas an NPC is temporary and limited to the current scene. It's very useful for making an environment feel alive or adding a character who isn't important to the story. I want the NPC to appear here at the start of the scene. Create a short animation, a few seconds long, that will make them appear when it's invoked. After saving it, assign it to the NPC by filtering for NPCs with the button in the top left. Then create two animations to make Mark and Kathy appear at the castle entrance, followed by a subscene called Start Scene grouping all three animations. Also, create a camera angle called Villager with a camera named Both to frame the NPC and the player during their dialogue. To let the player talk to the villager and end the story by entering the castle, we need to create interactions. In the scene menu, click Interactions. Create the interaction castle, then click on it to open the editor. There are two buttons at the bottom, Zones and Points. Zones run a part of the story when the player crosses into them. Points are small white dots placed at specific coordinates. Interacting with them runs a part of the story. Let's start with a point. Call it Talk to a Villager, then click the pencil to edit it. In stitch name, write Talk to Villager with underscores. We'll come back to that later. Max distance sets the distance at which the point appears. Aim radius only displays it when the player is looking toward its coordinates with a customizable view radius. Never show hides the white dot, and one-time click limits its use to a single time in the whole story. Now you know what the options are for. Click Place Point, go to the position you want, and place the point with the plus. Once you're happy, save. Now, add a zone at the castle entrance. The process is the same. Call it Enter Castle and use Enter_Castle as the stitch name. Set its boundaries, then save. We've finished the entire setup part of our story. Before we go further, it's recommended to have some basic knowledge of ink to use the mod. You don't need to follow this tutorial, but I'd advise reading the basics of its documentation after this video. The link will be in the description. Let's move on to writing the story with ink. Go back to the chapter list, then click the folder to open your stories folder. Go to the root of the project to find these files. Then download Inky, the IDE for writing stories with ink. Once it's installed, open the main.ink file to access the whole project. You'll find 3 files in particular: main.ink, functions.ink, and variables.ink. Main.ink is the project's main entry point. Never write in it, as your changes would be lost. Functions.ink contains your global functions, and variables.ink your global variables. We won't be using them in this video. To learn more, check out the ink documentation in the description. You can see an error here, and that's normal. When you create a chapter, no scene is linked by default in the ink file. You just have to write it in. Here, the name is Chapter 1 Path. Now let's open the Path scene file. Before writing, I need to explain tags. In ink, there are custom commands interpreted by NarrativeCraft. All existing tags are listed with examples in the mod's official documentation. In this scene, we want to run our cutscene, then have the 2 characters talk using our camera angles. First, use the cutscene tag by writing number cutscene walking. This tag is blocking. That means it runs and halts the story's progression until it's finished. So here, the story won't continue until the cutscene ends. Next, we want to invoke the camera showing both characters. Use the camera tag with the parent name @door, then the child name both, which gives you number camera @door both. To make a character speak, write their name, a colon, a space, then the dialogue. If you don't specify a character, the text will be displayed as 2D dialogue. At the end of this first scene, instead of ending the story, we'll move on to the next one. So we write the knot of the following scene. In the second scene, run the start scene subscene to make our 3 characters appear using the tag number subscene play start scene. Then invoke the interactions we created earlier with number interaction start castle. Finally, hand control back to the player using the gameplay tag. Make sure you place this tag before done or end. Otherwise, the story will end abruptly. To get our interactions working, we need to write stitches. A stitch is a kind of subknot. To create one, write an equals sign, then its name. Start with the talk to villager point defined earlier. Invoke number camera villager both, then add a few welcome lines, restart the castle interactions, and hand control back to the player with the number gameplay tag. Finally, to end the story when the player enters the castle, create the enter castle stitch and add a short line of dialogue to it, followed by end. Save with Ctrl+S, then head back into the game. The story is finished. Type /NCStoryReload to compile it, then /NCStoryPlay to run it. You'll find all our setup and our dialogue. To stop it without going through the pause menu, use /NCStoryStop. Now that you know how to create and write a story, let's move on to translations. NarrativeCraft lets you translate your story into several languages. The default language is still English, but you can change it with /NCLocalDefault followed by the locale code. To add a language, use /NCLocalAdd, then its code. I'm going to pick FRFR. In the project folder, a locales folder appears with a YAML file for our chapter. It's empty for now because our ink files don't contain any translation keys. Go back to the IDE and head to the first line of dialogue. A translation key is written like this. @trans indicates that the text is localized, and the content in the parentheses is the key. You can name it however you like. Just avoid names like line 1 or line 2, which would make the file horrible to maintain. In-game, type /NCLocalSync to add any ink keys still missing from the YAML files. Put the English sentence in EN_US and its translation in the locale you added. Use /NCStoryReload to reload the story and the translations, or /NCLocalReload to reload only the translations. To test them, choose a locale with /NCStoryLocale, then use /NCStoryPlay. To display a dynamic value, insert its name into the translation, for example, %count %. In ink, add a comma, then count, an equal sign, and its value. In-game, %count% will be replaced by the assigned value. That's it for translations. Let's move quickly on to customization. To customize all dialogue, open the Story Manager and click the dialogue icon. The 3 little dots give you access to the advanced settings. To change a single character's dialogue, go to their edit page, then to the dialogue icon. You'll only see the elements specific to them. To configure the main screen, open the Story Manager, click the gear, then Main Screen Editor. This lets you add a background by adding characters and a camera. To show this screen when a player joins the world, go to World Settings and set Show Main Screen on Join to Yes. To leave it without starting the story or quitting the world, press left control several times to make a button appear. You can also add music to it. Create a resource pack, take the music you want and convert it to OGG format, name it Main Screen OGG, and place it here. To add a logo, place your PNG image here. It will appear on the main screen. To use an image rather than a color behind the dialogue, place it in your texture pack, for example, here. And in-game, the path becomes this. If the image depends on a namespace other than Minecraft, add it at the start like this. To customize the dialogue sound, add it to the Sounds folder, then declare it sounds.json at the root of the resource pack, like this, for example. The corresponding audio file goes here. To replace the white dot for interactions, use this path. To change the sound choices make when they appear, use this path. And finally, let's move on to publishing your story. When it's finished, create a mod pack with CurseForge, Modrinth, or Prism. Then publish it in the Maps channel of the NarrativeCraft Discord server. And there you go! We've covered everything. Feel free to share what you've created thanks to this tutorial in the Showcase channel of the Discord server. Thank you so much for following this tutorial, and I hope to see some cool things made with this mod.